Welcome to Who Knew. We are fans of the current series of Doctor Who, and here we discuss our likes, dislikes, and insights into the modern regeneration of the show. Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher, or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/WhoKnewPodcast. All our episodes are on WhoKnewPodcast.com. You can leave comments there, or email us at WhoKnewPodcast@gmail.com. We also have an Instagram and Twitter account. Tweet at us at WhoKnewPodcast, and find us on Facebook. Today's episode is episode 8 of Season 7, Cold War. The Doctor is on the hunt for the Red Planet's Crimson October Tide boot. It's a sub, people. The Doctor is trapped on a submarine. This episode is written by Mark Gatiss, directed by Douglas McKinnon. It originally aired on the 13th of April, 2013, and was watched by 7.37 million viewers. Hi, this is Eugene. Let's introduce ourselves.
Elsie here.
Hey, this is Josh.
Hello, this is Frank.
Hi, this is Brian.
Hello, this is Comrade Alburn.
In 1983, a Russian submarine is searching for oil at the North Pole. On board, an impatient sailor thaws out a strange block of ice that they found. An ice warrior, a native of Mars, bursts free from the ice, kills him, and attacks. The TARDIS lands on board as the sub is sinking, and the Doctor tells the captain to move the sub laterally to an underwater ridge. Captain Zukov gives the order, and the sub stops its descent. But the TARDIS leaves them behind. The Doctor throws all pretense away and tells the captain and crew that he and Clara are time travelers. The ice warrior named Skaldak appears, and the Doctor tries to calm the situation, telling everyone to lower their weapons. But Lieutenant Stephenson electrically stuns Skaldak, who the Doctor recalls as the greatest warrior Mars has ever produced. Now that they have attacked him, he will retaliate.
So F that impatient soldier, huh?
Yeah.
Right off the bat, I'm like, what are you doing?
Which one?
The one who melts the thing in the first place.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not a mammoth, that's too small.
my boss said we're going to do this then, but I've decided we'll do it now. And there's usually no consequences for insubordination in Russia.
Well, also the fact that, my boss thinks it's a mammoth that's frozen. Oh, I'm going to defrost it now in the middle of this submarine.
In the middle of a submarine with an open flame in an oxygen-rich environment.
He really wanted burgers that night. He's tired of eating
Mammoth
whatever.
burgers.
Yeah.
They're all doing the nuclear testing and running the drills.
Yeah.
For the back then, it really was a pressure cooker. So it's like, I don't know what he actually thought the specimen was and why he's lying about the mammoth. I mean, that's obvious.
Oh, really?
Oh, I don't think he's lying about it.
Oh, I think he was just by, I thought that character really knew how to play people and lied at a drop of a hat. It's like he knew what to do. But the look of it when you saw the ice, it was almost humanoid form.
Yeah, so you're saying he sort of knew what was up, but he told all the soldiers, oh, it's a mammoth. It's a mammoth.
Right.
So
I agree, because it was more the captain that kind of offhandedly brushed it aside. Oh, it's probably a mammoth. And the scientist, I think, gave a knowing look.
He's like, yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. The captain and the scientist got it together. They knew the truth. So there's something really weird here, but we can't divulge it.
Gotcha.
I'm sorry, but are you talking about the guy who likes Ultravox?
Of course.
He's not that bright.
Hey, anybody who likes Ultraviolet is
Not that bright.
brilliant.
I thought this was a great cold open. It's kind of sets the situation without the Doctor. Those are the ones that I kind of like.
Right. It was also really strange that it was only a small scene this time before the actual credits ran.
I do appreciate that.
And are the credits new for this episode, or have I just not been really paying attention once I sit down and press play?
You mean with the face of Matt Smith?
The face and just the more gaseous time tunnel.
You have not been paying attention.
Very good.
That whole thing of the professor getting tapes of music, that was a thing in Russia because you had to kind of smuggle music in because outside music at that time was like propaganda.
Yeah.
So I think at that time they only allowed vinyl pressed records. Anything else was like bootleg.
Oh, so a Walkman was like a big deal.
Yeah. I like the use of the model. This is, I think, the first time in modern Who that we have models are back, because before it was all CG. So it reminded me of when we did Warriors of the Deep with the Fifth Doctor, but this is done far better.
Right.
Yeah.
So
There's
the
still a few
submarine
little-
was a model?
Yes.
Yes.
There were a few little telltale signs here and there, but overall it was pretty good.
Yeah.
I like the look of it. I think especially all the underwater, the rocks falling, like even though it was modelish, it definitely took me back to those 80s, like
Yeah.
almost like the Abyss or something,
Mhm.
you know, where it's fun to see it actually on film or on tape, whatever it was.
Yeah. No, I didn't even know that those were models.
See, that's why it works.
Yeah. Yeah. It didn't bring attention to itself, which was, I think, very much, and it's nice. The whole way it was shot, there were a lot of close-ups in this
A
episode
lot.
to try and feel more claustrophobic to be in a sub.
Yep.
There were towards the end of the show. There's a lot of talking action in the last few episodes. Even the one with what's the one with the planet sacrifice that we just did.
Rings of like Akatan.
Yeah, like there's a lot of I'm going to explain what's happening. It's very exciting, but the camera's close on me, so we don't see anything else but me. And this had a lot of that too. Obviously, this lends itself towards that because it's a submarine.
Right.
But also, there were a number of reasonably well-known actors in this episode, so I think that took a lot of budget.
Oh, you mean the Onion?
And
Well,
The
yeah.
Onion, and then also
Edward
the other guy,
Tully.
Yeah.
the first officer, yeah.
Stephenson. Yeah.
And then was it David Warner? What's
Oh
his
my
name?
God, that's Edward Tully?
Yeah. That's David Warner.
No. Edward Tully is the first
No,
officer.
the other guy.
The scientist.
The
Prince.
scientist.
Stephenson.
The scientist is Dave.
Yeah, he knows who David Warner is. Yes.
I don't know who David
Stephenson is Edmund Tully.
Oh yeah, he is. Okay, so
Yeah, the
There
actor
you
is Tobias Menzies.
Menzies.
I know him from Outlander.
and I know him from The Crown, where he plays an older Matt Smith.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
I will say for a story that takes place on a Russian submarine, they definitely wrote all these sailors very British. Like
Yeah.
they all felt like their attitude and everything was not the Russian,
No.
stereotypical. It was definitely very still Britishness. Like how scared they were of stuff, and it just didn't have that stiffness that, like, I guess is a device to indicate,
Right.
the stoic Russians. But yeah, they felt
But-
very, very British.
But at least
they-
they had English accents as opposed to different accents. Like,
Yeah.
Like Hunt for Red October.
Yeah, where it's Sam Neill with his New Zealand accent and then Sean Connery with his Scottish accent.
There's also one more. The sailor who gets his head grabbed and pulled up into the ceiling. He's from the Nevers.
Yes.
Oh.
I don't know.
Yeah, James Norton. So he was the radio or sonar guy.
Yeah, he was also John Brooke in Little Women, the newest one. So now that we've gone through the cast,
I know. Sorry, Eugene. Usually does the
I
end,
just-
but this one had so many people.
Yeah.
that were-
I
that
just kept recognizing people.
we didn't realize at the time.
yeah,
When we first watched it.
yeah.
I did think it was interesting. I know probably, I'm not too up on this kind of information, but if you're holding a device that shoots electricity, don't stand in half a foot of water when you do
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
I like how the TARDIS appeared and was like instantly wet. Like
Yeah,
that was
right.
really cool because I think they intentionally did that. It was a close up on the TARDIS as it was appearing, and it was wet.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, we don't often see it get like affected by the environment like
Mhm.
that.
The doctor's exit, Viva Las! And then, this is not Vegas.
That was a bit too much of a Star Trek jarring when he got hit and ran out of the TARDIS. It just felt, no actual motion. It was action. Go to the left, go to the right, go back, go forward out of the
Yeah.
TARDIS.
You know what I just realized? Not very many laughs in this episode. Like, I feel like that Viva Las Vegas gag was like the only real comedic thing.
I mean, there were a few other lines, but it wasn't as farcical or as big as the Las Vegas line, which seemed a little bit out of place for this, but they did so quickly, it was like, fine. They were in a whole different mindset is what it got to me. Like, they're in a whole different setting, they're a whole different mindset of what they're going to do, and then they get thrown into this. And then the TARDIS just leaves.
Yeah.
It was like,
We'll
what's
find out
going on?
why. We'll find out why.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it was so shocking at the time going, what happened?
And then,
I got a kick out of that. The TARDIS is like, oh, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
The TARDIS went like, nope. See ya.
I got you here. I don't have to stay. Bye.
It was really nice that they got rid of the TARDIS and the screwdriver pretty quick. So you
Yes.
had a Doctor and a Clara that had to use their wits.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll give it to you how he lost the screwdriver. I won't give it to you about how he lost the TARDIS, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
I want to mention that this is the first televised story to feature the Ice Warriors since the Monster of Peladon in 1974, I believe, with the third Doctor. So it's almost 40 years since that last episode. And like the Cybermen has been modernized in this revival, I enjoyed this specific way that they updated the Ice Warriors because the helmet isn't too big. The Lego minifig hands that are like claws are gone. The fur is gone, and the weird large hips are gone.
Don't get judgy.
Large hips.
But when you see the original one, you'll be like, that's not a good choice.
I happened to just look up the classic Who version of these Ice Warriors, and I think this is a really good updated interpretation. Yeah, they look ridiculous back then, but I like how they took the original and turned it into this.
I was going to save that for the end, but I'll share it anyway so that the rest can see. So look at this. This does not look that threatening to me.
Interesting.
But look at this helmet. I don't like that helmet.
Yeah.
Right.
And then there's one with like,
Whoa.
no, that's later.
That looks
It's like a
alien.
predator. Yeah.
Predator.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
That's later though. But yeah, they're just.
Unfortunately.
Oh, here's the one with the Lego minifig hands. See that? That's what I didn't like.
Right.
Like anywhere you see these darker patches, that's where fur comes out of their armor. It's just weird.
Ooh, look at those
That wasn't
lips.
their fur, was it? There was just fur lined to keep them warm.
Whatever it was, Frank, I don't like it.
No. Well, I agree with you. But when you said they had fur, I kept thinking their bodies had fur. They're
Yeah.
supposed to be reptilian, and that made no sense.
Yeah. I'm sure it's to keep warm.
Okay.
But look at even Patrick Trum's like, this is what you came up with?
Well, just like two pictures down from what the main one is, has a woman with a fur collar.
That's
Her-
that's Victoria.
Victoria. Well, she, yeah.
Huh.
So it's like, that's what they're doing.
Look at it, it's a
It's just,
child
we do it
ice
better than they
warrior.
do.
Half of this serial is missing, but they have animated it. So
Mm.
now I want to see it.
Maybe we should do that for a classic episode.
Don't push it.
So I guess I'll send out that calendar invite to everybody but Brian. Because this one left him cold.
Oh.
So were the things I was wondering if, first of all, I was wondering if this was a past alien from a classic Who, but were the things that the Doctor was citing, were they in direct correlation with the original episode?
No, this
No.
is all new to this particular version.
But it was nice that the Doctor knew who this person was.
Yeah.
That was a nice,
I know there are many
easy,
times.
quick way to get the exposition out.
Yes.
I was conflicted on that. To me, it was like, oh, of course, the one ice warrior that gets frozen in a block of ice for 5,000 years is the greatest warrior in the history of all ice warriors. I don't know. I think I would have
Brian,
liked it better.
Of course, the Grand Marshal goes down with the ship, and that's where they found him. No?
All right, that works. I'll give you that.
I thought something similar where I did think what you thought, Brian. Thought anyone is going to survive a mass battle or something like that, it's going to be the greatest warrior, possibly. So
Yeah.
And what I do like is that is a whole nother story that could be told someday.
Yes.
yeah.
It is convenient. I will definitely give you that.
Or maybe he was just like Angeline and it was his own propaganda and people put up signs that said, you know, where he had pictures of him in his spaceship like he's the greatest warrior, but no one ever saw him do anything.
The Doctor pulls out stuff from his pockets, as we've seen before, that don't necessarily like fit. He just keeps pulling stuff out, or they keep pulling stuff out as they search. Both him and Clara, there's what looks like a Barbie doll, a caramel apple, and yarn. And the 11th Doctor specifically mentioned reading about knitting in the Wedding of River Song, so that's kind of a weird, you can kind of fit that in, that yarn is there for a reason. But then he also comments that he's given up trying to figure out how things get into his jacket pockets since Angels Take Manhattan.
Oh, that's
Right.
right. Yeah. What did he say? It was glasses or something like that?
It was the book.
I
Remember
started
the
reading
book?
the book that River had written, or
Oh, right.
written
I don't know. I stopped.
Bob River's story.
Right. When they were in Central Park.
Yep.
By the way, who wants to take a bet that the Barbie doll's name is Rose?
Aw.
And then he kisses it later.
That's why the Barbie's name is Rose. They chain Skaldic up, but he's still able to send out a signal to any remaining ice warriors. The Doctor wants to talk to Skaldeck, but the warrior would see the Doctor or the Captain as enemy soldiers, so Clara is sent in as a proxy. She talks with Skaldeck, but soon realizes she is speaking to his empty suit. The Doctor opens the hatch to get Clara out of there. Skaldeck runs past them all and is free within the ship. There's no response to his signal. He is alone and he has nothing to lose. I always wonder why if you can't send the Captain and you can't send the Doctor, why not send the Professor?
Yes, he's not the companion.
Because there's something going on with the Professor. That's how I felt. Like the Captain doesn't want any of his people to go because it's dangerous. And he doesn't want the Professor to go either because he'll smell the other soldier, because the Professor also has some, it's kind of like Garrett.
Yeah.
That's a Star Trek reference, in that he knows a lot more than what he's letting on.
Yeah.
In a million years, I would never think that the Professor has more to him than we think.
Frank, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was thinking maybe the Professor did serve. He retired or left the service and then came back in a civilian capacity. So he still has the soldier in him somewhere.
Right. And I love the whole dialogue. I thought was really well done between Clara and the Doctor. That's what I liked about the relationship between these two characters before 12th
Before the fall.
11th and Clara. I mean, they had Clara saying, "Are we going to be okay?" He goes, "Yes." Is that a lie? She knows. She's right there. They write it quick. It's that quick-paced speaking. She realizes she's speaking Russian. She goes, "I'm not speaking." Oh, wait a minute. Am I speaking Russian? Are we
Not
speaking?
now.
Why
Not
are
now.
we doing this?
Not
Yeah,
now.
but she's one step ahead of like Donna was when Donna says, "What do you mean I'm speaking?" They're on Pompeii. And so she's there processing it really quickly. She's the Clara that I really liked, that we've seen up till now, which is great. And I see it as when the Doctor and the Captain are talking about who to send in, the Doctor wants to go because he needs to be the one. He knows the Ice Warrior, he knows a lot, he has all that information. The Captain doesn't want him because he still doesn't trust him completely, because how did you get here? Who are you? You're telling me the truth that you're a time traveler, but come on, this is way too much to expect me to believe in these few seconds while we're dying in the submarine. But a soldier knows another soldier, I thought was a great line, where he recognizes the Doctor and what he has done. Where a good soldier goes to war, that's part of who the Doctor is. And the Doctor, to me, was using reverse psychology to get Clara in there. That seemed to me like, no, Clara, you can't go. You can't do it, because he knows
that's
the Captain,
right. Yeah.
the Captain's going to say, well, no, she's going. Okay.
Yeah, I get a kick out of that.
It was
subtle, but it was funny.
But it seemed like the Doctor and Clara both knew it. So I love that interaction between them.
That was one of those sitcom-y moments that kind of made me laugh on this fourth time watching, where you can't go in there, and then cut to she's going in there.
Right.
It's like duck season, rabbit season, duck season. Rabbit.
Or I think it's Family Guy might have referenced F Troop, where it's like, we're not going to do that, we're never going to do that, and then they just do the thing that they said they weren't going to do. There's some good lines here that because we talked about exposition, there's a lot of talkiness going on in this episode, but I felt that the exchange between the Captain and the Doctor about who the Ice Warriors are felt not only exposition wise for modern viewers who have never seen the Ice Warriors, but it felt very natural as well to who the Doctor and the Captain are.
Yes.
Because he says, an Ice Warrior, explain. There isn't time, Captain. Try. And then he's like, try me. Martian reptile known as an Ice Warrior. When Mars turned cold, they had to adapt. Their biomechanics, cyborgs, built themselves survival armor so they could exist in the freezing cold of their home world. But a sudden increase in temperature and the armor goes haywire. Wow, you just did something from like the 60s and the 70s, and you brought us up to speed on this classic villain.
It was a good elevator pitch.
And he took the time to do it.
Well, then he wanted to keep going more. That was what was great. Like once he got rolling, it was like, oh, you got to stop yourself from expositing.
I don't think, Eugene, you'd have to remind me. Have you and I don't remember seeing an Ice Warrior episode.
You mean like classic?
Classic.
Yeah, I think the first episode was with the second Doctor, Patrick Troughton.
And I think it's missing.
The Ice Warriors, I think it's just...
Yeah, I think it's missing. I don't think it's available.
Yeah, and then their last appearance was the Peladon episodes, the Monster Peladon, and then I think there's another one before that with the
Have you seen
Doctor.
that? Because it doesn't ring a bell with me.
Yeah, that's the one with that alpha blinky eye alien that we'll see later.
Alpha Centauri?
Yeah, that's his first appearance.
Oh, yeah, I've definitely not seen that.
Yeah, it's not great.
No.
They named a character Alpha Centauri.
Yeah, and it's the 12th Doctor.
You'll see.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you'll go, what?
All right.
That's when Moffat is really like, I don't care anymore. I'm throwing everything in.
Here's
The moon is
here's
an
the
egg.
kitchen sink.
The moon is an egg. Yes, the moon is an egg.
I really like the armor to get back to this episode.
Yes.
Like
Let's talk about what we're supposed to
Yeah.
be talking about.
but
Sorry.
the tension of like Clara realizing that what she thought was who she was talking to is just an empty suit is great, and then
Yeah.
that adds to like the like almost like alien like
Mhm.
or where something is loose, you don't ever see it, you only see like little things at the edges of the screen,
Like
but
Jaws as well.
yeah, no, and that's why this is not a fun comedy episode. This is a very tense, I think, episode because you never get to see the thing, and so you're always waiting for it just around the corner.
His voice is good too. It's definitely I'm the villain, but it's not over the top.
Yeah.
For children, I'm the villain, like some other aliens, especially some we'll see soon.
He felt like enough of a creature that it sounded like a creature, but it didn't. But it still had the humanity we would want to hear. Yeah. As opposed to the other type, opposite of what you're saying, when it's just a British person talking in an outfit.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, this is another reason why I like this version of the Ice Warrior, because they're reptiles. So they had that hissy sound to them in the classic, and it just was not good.
I think this episode, back to what you were saying a minute ago, Auburn, is very reminiscent of the Alien movies, the first two, on purpose.
I like the spinny yellow lights. I know we didn't mention that, but they're all over the sub, and yeah, that's always great. Who's got the smoke detector that needs a battery?
I'm not hearing it, and boy, that would drive me crazy.
Hey Google, stop.
Oh, is it an alarm?
No, it's forest sounds. I forgot I had it on.
Oh, okay. Okay, no worries. I was just worried for your safety.
And you have a smoke detector going just because it's so dry lately.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a history portion here, so I'll just read this. It's long. Lieutenant Stephenson says, "Little green men from Mars," and he gets corrected with, "No, it's a big green man from Mars." In 1955, August 1955, 8 years after the Roswell incident, there was a person, Lucky Sutton, and most of his family went from Pennsylvania, and they drove down to a small farm where his mom lived in Kelly, Kentucky, where they encountered on the farm mysterious gray creatures, and they were fearful. They shot at it, and then they got the police and the press to come in and check this place out, and they didn't find any creatures, but the reporters, they took down what they had heard the family talking about, and the aliens were gray, but in the reporting, from I guess taking notes down to publishing the newspaper articles, there was a typo that made it little green men, not little gray men. So that's where we get little green men from, is that 1955 incident. That's why every time you see gray aliens, or we associate aliens and aliens abductions with the big heads that are gray, not green. But every time we see comics or cartoons, it's always little green men.
Interesting.
That's cool.
So a typo made little green men a thing.
And all the gray people were just at a health spa and in a mud bath drying off. Okay, that failed.
No, there's crickets from Josh's sounds.
Yeah.
No. We were just pausing to give Eugene a good cut for the edit later.
Thank you. There was another reason Clara had to be the one to go in, because if it was anybody else from the ship, they would never have opened the door. They wouldn't have wanted anyone to come out because they wouldn't have the creature
they
out.
just sacrificed him.
But for Clara, she had to get out. They're all trying to get her out. The captain even held a gun on
The doctor, yeah.
He went to go try and get Clara, but then he says, I don't know what I'm doing. You know, it's like, you seem to be the one who knows this, so he let him do it.
I did like that character moment where he stops the doctor with force, but then realizes, no, there's something here that you need to take care of. I am out of my depth,
Right.
unintended. So then this is the part where she does let Skaldak leave, right?
Doesn't let him leave.
He just
but
runs
leave.
past as she
Yeah.
opens the door, the
Yeah.
hatch.
So after they discover that the suit is empty and then Skaldeck escapes that chamber, Clara asks the doctor, "How did I do?" And the doctor goes, "This wasn't a test." So it just reminds us of this conversation that we've been having since the Bells of St. John. Is the doctor testing Clara? And I just thought that it was, I had forgotten about that.
Yeah, it was nice to pick up on that again. And it was kind of nice to like place it, because I always thought this episode was so bottle, not affected by outside other episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was kind of like, oh yeah, he's still trying to figure out who she is. And she knows it now. And so she's like, okay, tell me how I'm doing. Because I'm not going to be some replacement for another woman.
Right.
What I do like about this episode, I mean, I'm talking a little ahead, but where it's teaching her a lesson in a way. She's all incarnations of her up to this point have been so adventurous and headstrong, and this is the first time where she's actually started to look really scared and react to that. And then a little bit after in the story from where we are at the moment, that kind of culminates. Like this is a reality now, and it's actual danger, not just adventure.
I just in this specific episode, I just wish it had been written a little better or filmed a little better. Because to me, it's too much of flipping a switch.
Yeah.
It's and I'm not saying it wouldn't have been that quick. I wanted it some sort of little transition hint before she says something. For me, would have been nice, where she's just kind of like sitting on the edge of that open door, going, "What did I just do?" and reading it on her face.
And she did a great job, I think, too, Jenna Coleman, and looking terrified. But I will say this is a total pedantic, annoying little thing, but they send her in because she's not a soldier wearing a soldier's coat over her.
I thought that.
But I also thought, like, this warrior is going to know she's not a soldier, so shut up, Josh.
Submarine is slipping from the ridge, letting in more water as Skaldeck begins his retaliation. He captures Stephenson, who tries to convince Skaldeck that peace doesn't suit them. They are both warriors and can work together to get out of this situation. Meanwhile, Clara and the doctor discuss history and time being in flux rather than set. They search the ship for Skaldeck, but he is one step ahead and begins killing the crew, dismantling them to study human weaknesses. After they find the bodies, the doctor leaves Clara and Professor Grisenko to track Skaldeck. But Skaldeck doubles back and attacks Clara as the professor pulls out a gun and shoots at him. Skaldeck grabs Grisenko, but does not kill him. He tells them that the people of Earth have forfeited their lives by attacking him, and he plans to use their nuclear missiles on board to create a nuclear war. He summons his suit, enters it, and proceeds to the missile controls. I do
Who remembers 1983? That was a fun we're gonna die time. Oh, Eugene, you were like 2.
No, I remember because my brother was born. I remember that.
I'm sorry. I'm being a little reflective. We had the earthquake drills where you got under the desk for the earthquakes and away from the breaking glass of the windows, and all of us were like, I thought we did this for nuclear war. Why aren't we doing this for nuclear war?
Yeah, it was. Nuclear war's not going to do anything, but we still had to do that to get under the tables.
Yeah, it was like, what point is this? I mean, we're all going to melt.
Exactly.
And to this day, one of my recurring nightmares is atom bombs going off because of growing up in the 80s. Happy, joy.
You're like Sarah Connor.
That was the trauma of our it was our day-to-day trauma. But like nuclear war just felt like it was every day, any day, at any time, never ending.
There was a conscious enemy.
So it was like kind of watching this kind of makes me like, yeah, we were really lucky. That ugh.
Yeah, you clarified the question because you said, "Who remembers 1983?" I was like, "I do."
Yeah.
Not the dread of 1983.
The professor had the gun and had it ready. He was a quick draw on that. So that's what also leaves me to go, he's more than just a scientist.
And see, he pulled out what is like an American revolver. I associate with that, but he likes Western music. So I was like, oh, that's actually okay.
Yeah.
I would expect him to pull out some sort of like Mauser broom handle, some Eastern European weapon.
Or Jack's gun. And I was like, it's not Jack's gun.
I think the subtext around the professor, I mean, if he's 83 Soviet Union and he's on a military submarine with Western forbidden items, that means he is powerful in the party. Like, you know, like in 1984, it's not the people that are wearing the uniforms you have to worry about. It's the people that look just like you, but think just like the party that you really have to, they're the ones that are the most dangerous. I think that's where the professor kind of, like, maybe not in this episode really, but if we were to have another part to it, we would expose his true evilness.
Yeah,
He could have been a
story
spy
there.
living in America for a long
yeah,
time.
he fits that archetype, if you will, of what we associate Cold War Russian KGB agents to be.
Mm-hmm.
But Clara talks about how this is going to be okay because she lived past 1983. So World War III did not happen. So I like that they have a little bit of time travel talk where the doctor goes, well, time is in flux. It doesn't really work that way. It can be rewritten, which brings us back to, is it the Shakespeare Code? Where I think Martha brings up something like this, and then Waters of Mars, and then the Wedding of River Song. So it's something that the doctor has used as an explanation before, and I like how it came out sort of maybe naturally is not the best way to do it, but since Clara's new, she can ask that question that somebody like, if Amy was in this episode, would already know.
And
It
Amy
felt
would
very
argue
natural
about
to
time
me.
being rewritten.
Yeah.
We've seen that often.
Well, I like it because from Clara's point of view, it's like, do we need to freak out? We know it didn't happen. And I like how the doctor very quickly says, oh no, it could still happen and we need to deal. And to me, that seems whereas Amy, Martha, Donna had their moments and learned it later on, this was Clara's way of learning that.
Yeah, it's weird. Like sometimes it works, and this time it did work. So because we bring it up when it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a couple things at this point. The first one is the Ice Warrior certainly gives up on his signal really fast. You know, it's like, I sent the signal out and what is it, 10 minutes later? No signal return. I'm going to kill you all. So I kind of rationalized that as he waited long enough for the signal to reach Mars and come back. And when he didn't hear back after a period of getting to Mars, it's like, oh no, they're not on Mars. They're dead. I'm alone. So that's how I rationalized that. And then my other thing at this point is, if the suit could break the chains, why dishonor himself by leaving the suit to begin with?
And my rationale, because you know I do that, is
Yeah.
he couldn't break it with the suit. He had to be outside the suit to break the chain.
And then he got back into the suit later.
So he when he was doing that whole going around the whole ship and killing people and just being free that they couldn't find him, he had released the chains, you know, so that the suit was then free. But where he had to get to was still small and quicker to go through as himself without the suit.
Okay, all right.
So I was thinking that it was a ruse to bide his time to learn about the enemy.
Oh, that he could break out, but
That he could have broken out, or maybe he couldn't right away, but then when he did, he just left the suit, did some reconnaissance, you know, tore some people apart, looked inside their bones, and then came back.
that's good. He knows that everybody he's ever known is dead because it's been 5,000 years. He sent out the message, the signal, and didn't get it back. So that's when he said, this dishonor is not as bad as I have to retaliate because that is the major code. You attack one of us, you attack us all. I'm the only one left to do that. So it's like, that's higher priority than being dishonored to get out of the suit. And so it's like, leave the suit to go along with what Josh said, to get the information as a distraction is a suit so he can do all this stuff because he has to have them pay the price.
Also, too, like the end of the episode especially tells us that he's not just some angry creature. He's a highly intelligent, strategic thinker.
Yeah.
So, all the things that we're talking about are possible. We're just used to, I'm a monster, I'm chained, I break out. You know, not every villain is a Frankenstein's monster. So, this actually reminded me of some classic Who's. For some reason, Tom Baker popped into my head, where there was a lot of semantic debate and arguing between that doctor, in particular, who's Tom Baker, the fourth Doctor? No,
Fourth.
yeah,
fourth.
The fourth Doctor, and others, but a lot of angry semantic debate with the bad guys of the shows, and this reminded me a lot of that, taking up a lot of a lot of the action of those episodes ends up being in our imaginations because of the words they are saying, and I enjoyed it. It just it reminded me of that. There are a lot of very touches of Rod Serling, kind of, the irony in man's point of view and such.
Since they didn't show the creature all complete, we get to see the head later on. in the face, something going by, and then the hands. And it just reminded me, when I was watching it, of Sebulba from Star Wars, So he's just got a head and these arms, legs, things that he's using. Just sort of, what does his body actually look like? And then it made me think Dalek a bit. This is kind of the same idea of a smaller creature in this, cyborg or mechanical body. I didn't get that before with the other Ice Warriors in the classic. I didn't get that look. I kept thinking of him more as human.
Yeah, because Mark Gatiss, the writer of this episode, has been trying to get the Ice Warriors into Modern Who, and Stephen Moffat was like, no, they're silly looking, just no. Because he associates, Classic Who is associated with like the lumbering big monster with the Ice Warrior. When Gatiss said, no, that's just their armor, they're actually like a salamander inside that armor, Moffat was like, okay, you sold me. Go forward with that episode of yours.
Yeah.
And how fast they are outside the armor.
Yes.
It was very different, which surprised me. And then the armor, they slow motion the armor, so it's definitely feeling lumbering big.
Yeah.
And the bullets don't do anything.
There's a moment of levity in this, or something that I again liken to a sitcom-y moment. After Skulldugg escapes the chamber that they're in, the sub is like unsettled on that ridge. The captain goes, "What can he do?" referring to Skulldugg. "He's stuck down here with the rest of us. How bad can it be, Doctor?" The doctor replies, "The sub is fat with nuclear missiles. What do you think Skulldug's gonna do when he finds that out? How bad can it be? How bad can it be? It couldn't be any worse." Then the ground starts to shake and their footing starts to deteriorate, and then water comes down, and he goes, "Okay, spoke too soon."
Yeah.
Going to the complete opposite, when they discover the remains of the, I guess not Stephenson, but the next guy that Skulldugg killed in this part, the remains that are all spread out, like that he disassembled a person, and the way that the doctor and Clara and everybody react, they look so wide in that space.
Yes.
Like, I'm only imagining that this is such a gruesome, like, poor Clara. She is just messed up. I mean, to dismember a person and have it displayed out is not a pretty scene. I'm glad they didn't show anything, but when you actually stop and think about what they're implying there, it's pretty intense.
It is. And
that's why I really liked her reaction to it as well.
Yeah. Theater of the mind.
Yeah.
Really skirted the line well, I think, for this episode.
Alburn, when you mentioned the guy that got torn apart, did the doctor look at his wallet with the picture? Because I think that was Stephenson.
That was Stephenson.
Was it
yeah.
Stephenson? Okay.
Yeah.
They had Stephenson, and then there was another guy that got grabbed right before
yes.
James Norton,
dismember.
who was the sonar guy. Later on, that's who they found with Clara.
So
that
when
would be O'Negan
by himself.
So when the ice soldier, when Skulldugg says to Stephenson, "You're going to help me," or he says, "I'm going to use
when he
you,"
says
that's what he means.
Yeah,
he kills him.
Oh, okay.
I didn't like the bit with the wallet. I found it very trite.
Why would you carry your wallet on a submarine?
Also, that blood splatter, like the wallet, I don't know, it just looked like placed there.
Yeah, it was very. I mean, I get it, but it took me out of the moment because you see it in everything.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just that he was so unrecognizable in what was left.
Though the one effects that I did not like were the hands with Stephenson, and then later the
hands on the face.
It was a little rubbery, and you could tell the actor could have done many things to get out of that grip, but it was just so
it felt placed on their head.
It was prosthetic. It didn't feel alive.
Well, because you saw the nails, they were clearly molded on but painted, so they weren't like a separate element of latex. So that's what threw me out.
The animatronic or whatever, the practical effect itself looked pretty good, I think. But it's just in context when they actually used it, it's exactly what you guys are saying. Yeah. So, and then again, it's just like, but they don't know until on the day. It's like, well, this is what we got.
And what do? You just got to shoot it and go, yeah.
And I'm on the opposite side because I liked the hands.
No.
I liked it. The problem that I had was because we didn't see the whole form of what an ice warrior looks like. They didn't seem to match later on the face.
Right. But I enjoyed the slight cheesiness factor of it because it's Doctor Who. I think it's great when some episodes are so slick, just like a movie. But I also like the fun of winking at the audience, yeah, remember when this used to be bubble wrap and trash bags?
Right.
You know, there is a sense of fun to that. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the only thing that I would have ding in this episode is that. And even that is a passing, passing effort. Like the hands bugged me, but what bugged me even worse was how Skuldak was moving around this submarine and coming out of the ceiling, because submarines do not have headroom. There's nothing above. There's not a set. There's not pipes like in a building. It's the ceiling. So that was the other thing I wanted to mention that took me out, only because like I know submarines are very small and cramped.
But that's why it reminded me of Sebulba, and that it's not really a large thing, just large arm.
But he's pulling people up.
I know. I totally agree with you. That's why I was trying to visualize it.
He's eating them as like they come up.
But the only reason they did that is because of the aliens homage.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, guys.
The Doctor tries to reason with Skuldak. If he goes through with this, he is no longer a warrior, but a murderer. This doesn't work, so the Doctor threatens him. Threatens them all by using his sonic to set off the missiles inside the submarine before they can launch. It's a standoff. Clara questions Skuldak as to why he showed compassion by not killing the professor before, but won't show that same compassion now. At that moment, a beam grabs hold of the submarine, pulling it to the surface. It is an Ice Warrior ship that overheard his signal. The Doctor says that it's over, that Skuldak's people have saved him. Skuldak is transported to the other ship, but the warheads on the missiles have already been activated. The Ice Warriors only need to send a pulse to deactivate them. Pulse arrives, but to everyone's relief, it shuts down the missiles.
So this ending was why I didn't remember liking this episode.
Me too.
Yeah, I felt that the episode was moving along pretty well until the end, and it wraps up way too quickly. And that's what I remembered.
There's no drama.
And then rewatching it this week, I don't like that the Doctor tries to reason with Skuldak using words as a weapon, but then he also then threatens with the mutually assured destruction. And I get it. You're using that analogy of the Cold War with the standoff between Skuldak and destroying the Earth, basically. And then now I thought about what we've been discussing, and then it takes Clara to reason with him, bringing up his daughter's memory. It all just made me think that they're just stalling because the ship, the Ice Warrior ship, just comes in and beams them out of the ridge that they're stuck in. And then Skuldak is now reunited with his people, and he's going to stop killing. So it just felt very rushed. I almost wish that there was an extended director's cut of this that would have taken it into a more naturally paced third act or fifth act, depending on which structure you're following.
Skuldak does nothing
in
this final bit. Nothing. All it is he's standing there, and the Doctor tries to reason with him. He doesn't respond. He tries to threaten him. He doesn't respond. Clara tries to be sympathetic with him, and he doesn't respond. And then he gets beamed away.
I mean, that could
There's
work,
nothing there.
but they could have showed him on the ship contemplating what he's... there's just something missing. Like, that could have worked. But in the execution that we're given, it doesn't.
Totally agree.
Well, the Deus Ex Machina of having somebody come in at the last minute and save everybody is never satisfying. And there was also, a lot of setup in this with Skuldak, like taking apart people to figure out more about them. Also the music, Hungry Like a Wolf. Like, there's a lot of setups that something could have paid off here to solve it, but nothing did, which is also unsatisfying.
Yeah, it even reminded me of when we did Edge of Destruction, like the nuclear launch button was stuck. The spring was stuck. That's how this works. Like, it could have been something comical like that, but I don't know.
Yeah, when you realize, when we get to this point, it's really like, oh my God, there is no plot. Because the plot of this episode is a submarine with an Ice Warrior on it is stuck at the bottom of the sea. A ship shows up and saves them. But this was bad writing. Skuldak never responded. Skuldak was reasoned to, didn't say a word, didn't even say no, didn't say a word. He was threatened, didn't say a word, didn't even say bring it on. And then Clara says, you had compassion. Why did you turn around and have compassion? He doesn't say a word. He doesn't say, what compassion? I was getting ready to kill the guy. He says nothing. He just gets beamed away. There's no point to any of that dialogue. And that could have been the entire episode. have Skaldak's logic of his own people and the honor code of his own people respond to all three of those different things. And at the end, maybe be like, all right, you humans aren't so bad. But we got none of that. We just got him looking at these people and then at the appropriate moment getting beamed out.
I felt them turning off the nukes at the end was that answer. Could it have been better? Yeah.
Well, I'm glad it worked for you.
And I agree with Eugene in that we didn't see it. And the one thing I disagree with you, Brian, you had said it was a bad script, and I disagree with you. I think it was a really well-written script. I think it wasn't executed well because of the CGI. You couldn't see any emotion or thought or anything on Skaldak's face, where other actors could portray that without the words. And I think maybe the writer was writing it that way, because they did seed things with Clara and him when they were speaking alone, and he was telling of his daughter when they were singing about the red snow, and they were connecting, and her bringing that back at the end. I think there were things for him to think about, but it was not shown in any way on his reaction. He did not have lines at that point to actually say it, and they didn't come together well. And I think that's more the director of going, we need to understand why he's changing his mind.
I think I agree with both of you. I think there's that, Frank, but I'm on Brian's side too. I think, especially with Moffat, a lot of many of our episodes, we always say like, they just put one sentence in.
Right.
But sometimes I think they put that sentence in, but I'm totally speculating, and I'm being a little bit of a jerk about it. Like, I think they are so up on themselves as to, well, we put something on paper, so that'll fix everything. They feel like the weight of their own scripted words sometimes carries more weight than the audience feels.
Right.
Agreed.
Because I was really ready to disagree with you, Brian, but as you kept talking, I was like, you're right. So it's there, but it's not done well, but it sort of was, but it wasn't written badly.
They're playing on that the audience is picking up on the cliched motif. People are get your compassion, realize you have compassion, and not outside Doctor Who. I'm just saying in TV and movies in general, that we as a viewer automatically goes, oh, they're trying to tell us to be compassionate.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what they were doing with the wallet. The whole thing with him having a daughter, talking to Clara about his daughter, I was like, okay, I get it, but okay. And then we see the picture of the daughter in the wallet. Like, there's this heavy reliance on that trope. And I bought it while I was watching. I bought right into it, except for the wallet because it was so shoehorned in there. And again, I like this episode. I like it's a bottle episode. It has just enough cheese that makes me like it, and the acting is really good. I mean, what's the fellow, the Onion Knight? The actor?
Liam Cunningham.
So wonderful. And David Warner. I forgot David Warner was in this. So when he popped up, I was like, Warner's spending time doing Doctor Who? Did he just buy a house? Or a mansion or whatever? Not that Doctor Who was bad, but I would think David Warner, and you get my point. Anyway,
yes.
I think I was just saying that some of the presentation of this episode was so great that the stuff where it really felt was light, I just didn't notice it until you guys brought it up.
Well, I think this
Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah. This episode in particular has a very big middle, right? Like, we even noticed the cold open is like, get it done, set us up, and we're out. And then you get rid of the TARDIS, and then you don't even have time at the end to get the TARDIS back. Like, it's just, so the beginning and the end are very, very, like, not what this episode is about.
I think this episode was pitched as Alien on a submarine, but Alien's smart.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, all right, go with it. Can you get it to me by Monday?
That's what Gaddis did after he sold Moffat on the idea of revitalizing the Ice Warrior. He said it's going to be like Alien on a submarine.
Well, that's exactly what they did.
So as long as you can get that in there, the beginning, the end, you need them, but they aren't important.
Honestly, though, Brian, set in 1983, the era of Deus Ex Machina movies, it kind of is very fitting.
Yeah, that's true.
Everyone was coked up.
It was an homage, yeah.
How are we gonna get out of this? I don't know. Then the aliens come and they save everyone. It sounds.
It was all a dream.
That's why the water there in the shower when it all happened. But Brian, I agree with you that there needed to be some reaction from Skaldak, especially why did you show mercy to the professor?
Yes, because I want an answer to that.
That needed to be answered. That needed to be addressed somehow.
Yeah.
Because when he got beamed up to his ship, it seemed like because he turned off the missiles, he never told anybody. The rest of his people don't know that he was attacked. So they're not going to retaliate. It needed that something from Skaldak that we never got. And we got it, I guess, off screen by him turning the keys to all that. But
so what if Skaldak, when he was like, why did you save the professor, whoever it was, Skaldak was like, because he saved me from the 5,000-year sleep. Would that would have been satisfying? He's the one.
Or maybe he likes Ultravox
me
too.
Up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Duran Duran is also my favorite band. Hungry? Is that who did Hungry Like a Wolf?
Yeah.
Actually, something just hit me. With, I don't want to forget this, and I know I will. Eugene, you were saying that this was Gaddis's attempt to bring back the Iceman.
Yes.
Into the lore.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they realized we can't have Skaldak respond because if we do, it weakens
the Ice Warriors.
The Ice Warriors.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because they're saving him.
Because it is kind of like if you had suddenly had a Borg go, I'm not going to kill you.
You mean Hugh?
Hugh. And that weakens the Borg for the rest of the Borg's time. So it's like, okay, we want to introduce these villain characters, but we can't have them be compassionate at the end.
Because they want to use them for future.
Because they want to use them for the future, but the problem is it didn't work.
Yeah.
But I like that way of thinking.
It was only because of Eugene. Because Eugene saying that Gaddis wanted to reintroduce the concept of the race, the characters. And it's like, well, why wouldn't they have him be compassionate? Oh, because they want to show him again.
I mean, I think that makes total sense that they wanted to save the Ice Warrior. Let's reintroduce and save them for something later down the line.
Yeah.
So with that in my mind, I can totally now accept that that Deus Ex Machina ending.
The only thing,
bad writing.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to bad writing because he was written so intelligent.
Yes.
Right? Like he's not a dummy. He has familial connections. Like he mourned the loss of his old life and his daughter. And we also have like some other examples recently of good aliens that come back and they aren't like they're weak or they're more well-rounded, like the Silurians. You know, they weren't like, they were okay to have weaknesses and to be more human, but they still come back because that's what you love about them. You know, you don't need your villains or your races to be all bad. I think, you know, maybe if they had shown some compassion, we would have had more Ice Warrior episodes because they would have been real things and not. Yeah.
Well, if you had done it well, you could have reintroduced an evil race and still have us feel compassion for it because that's what they did with Dalek.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So like they've done it before. That's why it's like I understand your argument and I like it, but I'm not giving them that much credit.
like because the other thing I thought of was every time they explain why these particular team of Daleks is different because they were affected by the Time War or they're the cult of Skaro. They could have done something with this is a particular like battalion of Ice Warriors that I don't know, we're just different.
You mean like the Next Generation did eventually with Hughes?
Yes.
Hughes Borg?
Like it's been done. They could have done that here.
Yeah.
They go topside and see the Ice Warrior's spaceship. Clara asks about the TARDIS, and the Doctor confesses that he fiddled with the TARDIS's hostile action displacement system. So if the TARDIS is attacked, it relocates, but they are bound to find it eventually. The sonic screwdriver blares because it has located the TARDIS at the South Pole.
And we all freeze frame and laugh.
Yes.
You know, it's funny because Matt Smith's like, he's like, oh, that made me laugh.
No, that was good.
That was good.
The Ice Warrior spaceship was giving me strong Stargate vibes. Like,
yes.
But I get it. Like, that's the least important part of the episode.
Yeah.
I'm sure they pulled something.
And the TARDIS's hadn't been used in donkey years, he says.
Right.
And it hadn't been used since the episode The Crotons with the second Doctor in 1969.
Again, just a plot contrivance to make them trapped on the submarine.
Yeah. But it makes this, I think, the first time in a while that we do not see the interior of the TARDIS.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, just real quick, aside from our poll, did you guys enjoy this episode?
fell asleep both times I watched it. There was a couple paragraphs there that I slept through.
But only towards the ending, right? Like the
No,
character
it was in the
stuff.
middle each time. It was between
The oxygen-rich environment.
Stepson or whatever, and I missed the dismemberment thing. Like I have no memory of the wallet. I don't know what you guys are talking about there, because I think I fell asleep both times. The first time I didn't wake up until the nuclear standoff, and then the second time I woke up when he takes his helmet off, and I was like, oh, I didn't see this last time. Oh, they show his face. Oh, it's kind of weird. Where'd the teeth come from?
I like the helmet coming off and that his face was a little bit bigger, and it
Yes.
yeah, that was neat.
It was like a drop of gravity because it got.
I was
unsucked.
surprised because earlier on they show you his face in shadow. Is that when he was talking to the first officer? And that I really liked.
Yes.
And then when they showed it at the end, I thought it was decent enough. I was personally distracted by how still the armor was, like how he was not moving except for his face, obviously because of the limitations. But in general, the effect was decent enough. But I enjoyed the episode, but I didn't really feel anything from it, which is what I usually like about the show, that even in some episodes that I don't think are very good, I will feel something. This one was just a little bit of a romp.
Yeah.
I always remember whenever I think about this episode, it's, oh, I like that episode. I like that episode. And then, but I haven't seen it in a while, not because I was avoiding it, just I haven't seen it in a while. And watching it now, and I think because of the podcast, it goes down. Because because now I like Matt Smith more, and this episode has incredibly good dialogue. I mean, there's some great back and forth that I absolutely love, and now it's beginning to frustrate me because why can't you do that with every aspect of these episodes? And so watching it again, it really dived. It really went down.
Pun intended.
Dived.
Yeah.
You didn't mean to do either of those?
Shut up.
Okay, Brian, what if after Skaldak went up to the ship, he beamed down a message? The only way to win is not to play. And then turned off the nuclear codes.
Or what if he said in the message, or it was, you unlocked my heart?
Did you miss the whole War Games reference?
No, I get you.
You had this character that the Doctor talks about so much of their code and the honor of the way they look at things. And then, honestly, nothing comes of that because literally it's a human being going, but you felt for the professor. And I mean, we get no debate, we get no agreement, we get no, debate him on his terms. That's why I kind of like it when the Doctor threatens him, because it's like now the Doctor is speaking to him in language that he can understand. It's like, you're a murderer, you're a murderer, you're a murderer. Okay, you're trying to go for his code, but his code is you've attacked me, you're all dead. So you're already beyond that point. So now it is like, okay, fine. You're going to kill all of us. We'll kill you at the same time. Do you go for mutually assured destruction? Let's find out. Plus his Sonic now is red, which was really fun. But nothing, I don't get a response from him. I want his character to be a character, and he's not a character.
Yeah. It's funny you made that War Games reference, Frank, because I always confuse David Warner, or the actor who plays the scientist in War Games, with David Warner.
I do that all the time with all of their things. It's like, oh wait, David Warner was in Labyrinth. Oh no, that's John, what's his name, from War Games. I do that all the time.
So Liam Cunningham, as we discussed, plays Captain Zukov. He was, as we mentioned also, Sir Davos Seaworth in Game of Thrones. And most recently, he's the voice of Duncan in Masters of the Universe Revelation. Tobias Menzies plays Lieutenant Stephenson. He is Villiers in Casino Royale, Prince Philip in The Crown. We mentioned Edmund Tully in Game of Thrones, Frank Randall in Outlander, and Jack Randall. And then he was Liam Monroe in the Black Mirror episode The Waldo Moment, where they get this character to run for office, if you remember that one.
Yeah.
Josh O'Connor plays Pytor, Prince Charles in The Crown, and James in Peaky Blinders. James Norton plays O'Negan, and he was John Brooke in Little Women, and he plays Hugo Swan in The Nevers. Charlie Anson plays Belavish. He was Larry Gray in Downton Abbey.
To me, he looks like a cross between Arthur Williams and Peter Capaldi.
Yes, especially
He's
his
the
first
son of
line.
Rory and the Doctor.
His like screaming. I got very Capaldi vibes from that.
Yeah, there was just something in the eyes the way he acted.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh.
Spencer Wilding plays the physicality, or the guy in the costume for Skaldak. We've previously seen him as the creature / Minotaur in the God Complex, the Wooden King in The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe, and Darth Vader in Rogue One. He's probably a really tall guy. I didn't look how tall he was though. Nicholas Briggs does the voice of Skaldak, and he's usually the Dalek voice.
I know I recognize that name. I happen to notice it in the credits.
David Warner plays Professor Grisenko, and this guy has just been working forever. He was Chancellor Gorkin in Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, Gul Madred.
Gul Madred, yeah.
In Star Trek The Next Generation, the episode Chain of Command. Spicer Lovejoy in Titanic. That's the James Cameron Titanic. Sark and Dillinger in Tron. Lord Aslock in the Doctor Who Dreamland, if you remember doing that animated episode. He voiced Alpha in the Men in Black animated series, which I think is far better than any sequel that they ever released. He's the voice of Ra's al Ghul in Batman the Animated Series. He was Jor-El in Lois and Clark. He was the evil genius in Time Bandits.
Yeah.
And Jack the Ripper in Time After Time.
Right.
He was
And then
also
the Omen.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he got beheaded.
Alburn, have I seen Undiscovered Country?
Probably.
Is that where they go to Earth?
No, that's the one where they
okay.
meet God, or they thought they did.
No.
No,
no.
Undiscovered Country is the one with the Klingons.
The war.
Yeah.
But Josh is not wrong. David Warner is also in Star Trek V, where they discover God. He plays St. John Talbot.
Oh yeah, on the planet.
And then when they did Star Trek VI, they gave the role of Gorkon to him as an apology for having him being in Star Trek V.
Aw.
So he's literally in 2 Star Trek movies back to back, but completely different characters.
He's also in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. He's the scientist. I want to mention that the DVD has commentary from Mark Gatiss, Murray Barber, who's he's like the unofficial, uncredited visual effects supervisor, and then Jenna Powell, who's the visual effects producer for this particular episode, and she did the Ice Warrior ship at the end.
It's also good.
Yeah, but just weird. It's
It
not what
didn't fit the aesthetic of the whole show.
That's what I was gonna say. It doesn't. I don't associate that with what the Ice Warriors ship would have looked like. But
Right.
all the 80s synth pop that is brought up in this episode is from Mark Gaddis's personal preferences and experiences and likes from growing up and listening to all those bands.
Yeah, it sounds very Mark Gatiss.
And he says
Surprised he didn't bring up Frankie
Goes to Hollywood.
Goes to Hollywood. I'm sure he liked them too.
And he says that Hungry Like the Wolf is his go-to karaoke song. So that's why it's in this episode.
Okay, that explains it.
So Cold War, who is this episode good for? Or more specifically, this episode is good for who? A new viewer, a casual viewer, a fan of the show, or a diehard?
I'm going to give this one to a new Who viewer. I think anybody could turn this episode on and get the gist of it. It's a bottle episode. You don't need to know much about what's going on in the broader Who universe. They explain time travel. They explain the era that they're in. They explain the villain. And, it's its own encapsulated little story. So I think a new Who viewer could follow this and, come out at the end going, okay, all right, I see where you're going, but I don't like it.
I'm also going to put it in a new category. Again, I wouldn't have shown this to somebody, but if it's on, it is encapsulated. They don't mention anything about the Impossible Girl. They hint at it and if you know it, when she goes, "Is this a test?" It does add to the whole arc story, but it doesn't pull you out of it at all. So it's also one that they're talking about mercy that has a happy ending. It's good for introduction. She asks them about time travel, how they affect it, why can't they change it, or can they change it, all that kind of fun stuff. So yeah, I would put it in the first category, new anybody.
Same here. I agree with all that. I think it's good for new. I don't think it's the most compelling episode, and I wouldn't show it to someone, a new viewer who is doubtful if they'd like it or not. Because they would probably watch it like, "Oh, it's okay," and then never want to watch it again. But I agree with all that. It's got all the elements for a new person to be like, "Oh, okay, I get it."
I am just gonna be way different, and I'm gonna put in Die Hard because I find it very forgettable episode. I think I like the guest stars, but I don't like I like those actors, but I feel nothing for any of their characters in this episode. So overall, I just find this episode very forgettable, and for that reason, it's in the Die Hard category for me.
Well, I don't think I'm going to go as far as Kelsey, but personally, I would not suggest this to a new viewer. So I'm going to say casual because I don't like it is fun. The actors, are all big names, but for the reasons that it doesn't end well, I don't want to leave that bad taste in somebody's mouth like at the end. So maybe if we had like only a half hour to watch something, I'd be like, yeah, let's start this and then never come back to it.
Excellent.
But I'm going to say casual.
I like this episode, or I grew to like this episode. My original opinion of this episode was not great. So when I revisited, I was expecting to have that come back. But for some reason, given the time that has passed, I was able to enjoy it. It is a bottle episode, but it doesn't feel like one because I think they utilized the set of the submarine very well. It does remind me of Warriors of the Deep if that was done with a better budget and a modern budget. I really enjoy the motivation of Skaldak. I just wish that there was a better conclusion. And the way that they handled the coverage of him, like Jaws, that felt very it felt nice that they didn't show the lumbering monster that the Ice Warriors have been known for in classic Who. We are again following the pattern of a new companion, the first episode being a modern day episode, which is the Bells of St. John, the next episode being Rings of the Caton, where we go to the future, and then now this third episode with Clara, or this particular Clara, is Cold War that is in her
Don't
past.
you say it. Oh, you bastard.
Her past, not anyone else.
Oh, it's in the past.
It's in the past. It's vintage.
And what do they say now? Pearl Jam is classic rock, so that's how we know it's old. Yeah, there's a lot in this episode that I found myself able to enjoy. So I think anybody can watch this and get enough out of Doctor Who. So I'm going to put it into the new category. So that wraps up Cold War. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, everyone, and we will see you next time when the future becomes the present.
You've just listened to an episode of Who Knew?
Our wonderful theme music is by Michael Grady.
Find him on Facebook at The Universe Explodes.
All our episodes are engineered by Auburn.
You can find him at auburnbinkley.com.
You can also find this show in several places.
Follow us on Twitter at Who Knew Podcast.
Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher.
Or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/WhoKnewPodcast.
All our episodes are on whoknewpodcast.com.
Visit our Facebook page.
Please leave comments, reviews, and click like to help support Who Knew Podcast.
To listen to our show on your Amazon Echo device, enable the AnyPod podcast skill. Ask AnyPod to play the Who Knew podcast.
This podcast is inspired by Doctor Who,
The longest running sci-fi show in history.
And especially the revival, spearheaded by Russell T. Davis,
Thanks to Russell,
Sydney Newman,
Verity Lambert,
Ron Grainer,
Delia Derbyshire.
And all those involved in the adventures of our favorite Time Lord.
your work continues to inspire and entertain.
So now that we've gone through the cast,
I know. Sorry, Eugene. Usually does the end, but this one had so many people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just kept recognizing people.
We didn't realize at the time, when we first watched it.
So-
we're going to read. I mean, unless there's nothing else, Brian can read.
Brian can read? No, sorry.
Can he read Russian?
No. I'm getting good at it. I can read my Russian contact names in Cyrillic now.
Oh.